Back to the testimony of Ian Cranston, who took the stand in his trial this afternoon in a Deschutes County courtroom. Bola Badabo was there. Bola?
The defense and prosecution questioned Cranston about his state of mind leading up to. Cranston said he had been drinking, but he was not under the influence during the interaction with Washington. He told the jury he was afraid of getting seriously hurt, knocked unconscious, or getting brain damage. Defending his actions, he said he normally carries his firearm to protect himself.
When he fell to the ground, it was obvious that I hit him. When I walked over him, I asked him again, "Did he respond to me, bro?" And I leaned down over and I lifted the shirt to see if I hit him in the chest. And I hit him in the stomach. So I put the shirt back down and I put pressure on the wound. And then I started yelling, "Call the police." I didn't want that.
Cranston said he did not feel he could defend himself without his gun. The prosecution say his actions are unjustified based on law and facts, having waited 30 seconds to fire his gun. They say there was no imminent threat. Earlier today, the judge denied a defense motion for acquittal of Cranston. We'll continue to bring you updates. Bola Badabo, News Channel 20.
All right. Peace and blessings, ladies and gentlemen. All praises to the Most High. And there you saw 27-year-old Ian Cranston of Bend, Oregon, on the stand during his trial, trying to cry what is known as white woman tears. Now, being that, he's a white man, a young white man that didn't go so well. Those tears didn't quite come out as he wanted to. But Mr. Cranston was on trial for the 2021 unaliving of 22-year-old Barry Washington Jr. in Bend, Oregon, at a downtown nightclub. Now, this happened once again in Bend, Oregon. And of course, I must tell you that Bend, Oregon has about an 85% white population and like a 0.5% black population. So probably going to know where this story is going. Now, this incident came about at the nightclub, at a bar, where it was said that 22-year-old Barry Washington tried to holler at this girl, this white female. Now, the girl just so happened to be Mr. Cranston's girlfriend. Now, the prosecutor say when, he tried to holler at her, she told him she had a man, and he responded respectfully, turning down his advances. But later on in the night, it was said that the boyfriend came up. Evidently, she probably told him, "Yeah, that black guy tried to talk to me." And Cranston and Barry Washington Jr. evidently had words. And during that time, they said some punches were thrown. And, from the looks of it, as you see right here, Mr. Washington was evidently putting them things on Mr. Cranston. And as you heard the news reporter say, Mr. Cranston admittedly said, "I didn't think I could handle myself without my gun." And that is the whole gist of the matter. He's inadequate with his hands. So in the midst of the affray, in the midst of them knuckling up, shooting the one, catching a fade, this guy pulls out and, hits my man in the stomach, the chest, the torso area. Now, then to hear him tell it, as you saw, he, just got on the ground and, tried to apply pressure on the room. He says, I don't want to. That's what he says he did. But there was a video surface from the Oregon Daily News of onlookers laughing and calling Barry Washington Jr. racial slurs as he lay on the ground bleeding. And eventually he was transported to a local hospital where, he unfortunately lost his life. And the police came, and I'm going to show you, a video of the police talking about their interaction. The police came, and Cranston admittedly told police that he did it. And you know the narrative. I was scared. I feared for my life. I didn't know if he was going to unalive me, right? In a street fight. And so, despite his confession, Cranston was only arrested on suspicion of second-degree homicide and released on a $10,000 bond, which, of course, he immediately made. Suspicion of homicide. How is it suspicion when you have the weapon, you have the man, you have the confession, but yet and still it's suspicion? I guess that goes towards, the racial population or the fear of the big black angry man, which you're going to hear his friend also testify that, they was just so scared of this 22-year-old. And once again, if you see him, he don't look like a big guy. But of course, his melanin, his hair, his blackness makes him 100 times bigger than everybody else, right? And so eventually, because he was out on bond, the prosecutor, Mr. Hummel, he started receiving a lot of mail from the family on why he was out on bond. So they originally went back and charged him. And they charged him with second-degree unaliving, first-degree manslaughter, and second-degree manslaughter and assault and lawful use of a weapon. So they went back and charged them with about 4 charges. And during the trial, which I'm going to show you some videos of it, he was convicted of not second degree, but he was convicted of, second degree manslaughter. And he only received a sentence of 10 years. That was in about 2022. So he'll be out, in about 6, maybe 5 years. But I want you to listen to the testimony of, quote unquote, his friends and how they tried to paint the narrative of, this guy was so scary. All of us feared for our life. Just listen to his friend. I think his name is Tyler.
At the Ian Cranston trial on Tuesday, witness Tyler Smith, who said he's Cranston's close friend, was the first to testify. He was there that night for the entire ordeal.
A verbal exchange that ended up escalating.
He said when Washington approached the group on the sidewalk and flirted with Cranston's fiancée, Cranston told Washington to F off more than 20 times, and it turned into a screaming match. Smith said he thought the man was intoxicated, and after he insulted Washington, Washington punched Smith in the face.
I was dazed by a gunshot. I didn't know it was a gunshot at first.
The prosecution asked if Washington ever threatened anyone or indicated he had a weapon. Smith said no. He said he was not afraid for his life, but he was afraid that Washington would seriously physically injure him. The prosecution asked why he didn't just walk away or call the police.
At that point, I did not want to turn my back on Barry.
The state medical examiner also took the stand, giving in-depth detail about Washington's autopsy and the nature of his injuries.
It had characteristics that were consistent with an entrance gunshot wound.
She said his was found to be a which means it was caused by another in a non-accidental manner. Carly Olson, Central Oregon Daily News.
So there you hear the testimony of his friend Tyler. And you hear the news reporter say that Barry Washington tried to holler at the girl and she told him to F off 20 times. Now, come on. Now, I know some brothers who are persistent, but I doubt that, that brother stood there and got rejected 20 times before moving on to the next option. And remember, the prosecutor said that Mr. Washington responded appropriately, respectfully, when being, rejected from his advances. Now, also, they asked him, well, did Washington at any time say he had a weapon or he was going to, unalive somebody? No, but I did fear serious bodily injury, and I didn't, did fear for Cranston as well, right? And so when the person asked him, why didn't he walk away? Well, at that point, I didn't want to turn my back on the big, black, dangerous Negro. You know what I'm saying? Like, once again, they're trying to paint this narrative that he is so big, black, and bad that, Ian had no other choice but to do that. And, the prosecutor said that, even though the man got some hands put on him, there was no signs of trauma and things like that. Like, he just, he just got the best of him, right? And later in, one of the testimonies that I heard, that the police got up there and they was like, yeah, well, when I arrested him, he just said, man, I just reacted. I just reacted. And he asked the police officer, everything's going to be okay, isn't it? Like, wink, wink. You know what I'm saying? The police officer said, look, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So evidently he thought that, his whiteness and his tearsness was going to get him off the hook, which essentially, in my opinion, it did. The family, they did get some semblance of justice, 10 years, but for taking a life in that manner, cold-blooded, in a bar fight, deliberately, that's premeditated. Anytime you pull out you know what you was doing. But next, they put his fiancée on the stand. And once again, watch how she tries to paint, the fight as some elaborate, this indescribable scene of punches and violence that he just had to. I was fearing for his life too. Just listen to her and her testimony.
Yeah, it happened so fast that I couldn't redirect myself to look at me, and I just kind of reached out towards him to make sure that he was still standing up. And I just remember how thunderously loud they were. And at that moment, I just didn't know if he was going to be okay or not.
The trial is slated to last for 2 weeks. We will be in the courtroom every day for bringing you daily updates in our newscasts. Alan, back to you.
And so you hear the prosecutor. Well, you didn't hear him, but the prosecutor said, okay, you didn't see the punches, but you heard them, right? Oh, yeah, they was just so thunderously loud. Like, I've been in some fights and been around some fights. Like, you don't really hear punches. Like, you might be catching good, and evidently he might have been catching them good. But they were just so thunderously loud. Like, I couldn't redirect myself. And, I just reached out to Ian to make sure he was still standing upright. And it's a fight. May the best man win. But the best man does not pull out a weapon and begin to fire in that manner. So, I think this case is on appeal, so we're going to see what they do out there in Bend, Oregon. This is a case that I've never heard of. I guess it's, it was a big case out there, but we never heard about it. But, this once again is the example of a lot of things that I talk about is the fear of the big black man and the protection of the white woman, which has always been used as a motive for lynchings, riots, kidnapping, and the unaliving of black men throughout history, whether it's Emmett Till, whether it's Henry Marrow and Oxford, whether it's, we can go on and on and on and on and down the list, whether a black man looked at a white woman, whistled at a white woman, brushed up against a white woman, said hey to a white woman, or was involved in a consensual relationship with the white woman, there's always been some sort of retribution for that. So as always, I do caution, my brothers, and, I was talking to a young brother down in South Carolina who was involved with some white women, and they got him in some bad situations. And so, once again, love who you love. I'm not going to tell you to discriminate, but, you have to realize the historical nature, and some people, still feel some type of way about that sort of engagement. And so, rest in peace to my man, Barry Washington Jr. Our prayers and condolences to his family. And, I hope that, they don't overturn this conviction and let this man out on the technicality in which his lawyers had moved for dismissal. And, on appeal, they say, yeah, there's going to be some things we're going to address in the appeal about this, that, and the other. I mean, the man admitted to doing it, said he was scared because he couldn't fight. That's what basically he's saying. I was scared of getting beat up. And so, because of that fear, yet we have another young man who has, unfortunately lost his life. So, y'all tell me what y'all think in the comments about this particular incident. Y'all see the number 919-587-7782. Peace and blessings.